What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the TOBU Fitness Podcast. I believe this is episode 21. It's been a while since I've done an episode as well. I've been busy on my end with work and all that stuff. As some of you know, I work with the University of Texas men's and women's basketball team, and season's over now, so a lot more time for content creation, podcasts, all that good stuff. So we got a podcast today with a very special guest, James Pollard, 6'5", Philadelphia Phoenix legend, 2022 UFA Most Improved Player. Now he's on the Minnesota Windchill. James, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we met at the UFA Youth Summer Camp back in July. We talked about doing the podcast then, and then it completely fell through on my end. So glad almost a year later that we could get this going. Cool. Do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, I started playing my freshman year of college in 2014 to stay in shape for tennis. I was a varsity tennis player on scholarship at Philadelphia University. I just kind of stuck with it, fell in love. It was very natural, very similar throwing mechanics, everything. Um, Tried out for Phoenix the year I graduated in 18 and had been playing there since until this year where I decided to come play Windchill.
You talk about that move a little bit. So, because I want to get into a lot of that, especially the kind of the tennis and the, your college ultimate career. But yeah, talk to us a little bit about the move to the Windchill. Because for me, like for basketball fans, to me, that's like KD going to the Warriors. Like, yeah, talk about that decision a little bit.
I keep getting that. I say it's slightly different just because Phoenix hadn't really made the playoffs or something where as good as at least for KD's sake is his team was beat by the Warriors. Thunder were beat by the Warriors before he went there. But yeah, I mean everyone who knows me knows I was basically not leaving Philly, especially for pro. I had thought about it potentially for club in recent years just because the men's side hadn't been there and I hadn't made a Philadelphia amp. So I ended up last year playing with Dragon Thrust as a travel player for the season. And one reason Windchill ended up coming up with because I was playing Dragon. They had some injuries towards the end of the season. And Ben Feldman, the owner, coach, GM, reached out to Phoenix about me going on an end of season loan to play their last two regular season games in playoffs. And after some talks, Phoenix okayed it, left the decision up to me. And I said no, because I would have missed a game for us. So after the season, I knew that they were going to reach out again, especially after I was also at championship weekend doing analysis and whatnot. And it just, things happened. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Do it for a season, learn, grow, and then go back to Philly.
Yeah. I assume you guys have had a lot of preseason and stuff, and it must be probably a little different than your role with the Phoenix. But yeah, what's that transition been like? Are you like filling a different role, kind of having to play a new style?
Not really a different role, just more like different team, different people. Because I've been playing with the same people in the same city with the same systems since I started playing 11 years ago. Oh God, I'm getting old. Um, so it's more just like picking up on the way they phrase things, and then just completely new people all together. Like how do they throw? What do they like to do? And then also them learning me. That's really just been the hardest part.
I'm excited to see how you guys do. And like like we just talked about before hitting record, you guys, your first game is until week 3. So even though the season starts real soon here, yeah, I know you guys have still a little bit of a preseason left. You mentioned so you played tennis in college. Kind of what was that process like, and like what kind of then got you to want to go to Ultimate more?
Yeah, I mean, I always played tennis growing up with my family, and then middle school, I just got serious about it and just started training, coaches, tournaments, and got better and better. And then I always wanted to do something with sports growing up, so it would always assumed I'd play some sort of sport going in college. And yeah, that was just it wasn't really fun in college for me, unfortunately, which is kind of how I fell in love with Ultimate so much. Just coaches and the players on the team. especially it's hard because it is very, very foreign sport in the US. Like your top players are always going to be like we had a guy from Spain. We had two guys from Spain, a guy from Switzerland, Morocco. Like that's just the how it is with tennis. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of work, a lot of I didn't train as much. I kind of lost that fun in college. So it's like my fun outlet was Ultimate and playing with all of them. And I ended up starting training for Ultimate when after my rookie season on Phoenix in 2018. I was like, all right, I want to take this seriously and started training then.
Or how much of tennis do you feel like carried over to Ultimate? You mentioned it's similar mechanics, and like we've kind of talked about a little bit before, like the upper body, probably like the stuff that you did in tennis probably prepped your upper body to be able to handle anything in Ultimate. 'Cause, yeah, what do you feel like carried over well from tennis?
I mean, the easy stuff is the technique, throwing a forehand, hitting a forehand, throwing a backhand, hitting a backhand, two-handed backhand. I should be more precise on that. Um, but surprisingly, what people don't realize, conditioning. Because in tennis, I don't know if you don't watch tennis a lot, people don't realize is the entire time you're playing, unless you're changing sides for sets and you get that minute, whatever it is, break. After a point ends, you have 20 to 30 seconds to start the next point, and they will actually call a penalty if you take too long. So you're doing that for an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on if you're pro and you're doing 3 out of 5 sets. It's longer, but yeah. So like that start stop of like going hard for really quick and then getting short recovery, very similar to cutting, depending on your system, especially if you're doing like a vert stack. You make your one big cut in the lane, you get back in the stack, you get to chill for like a couple seconds before you have to go again. So that aspect, and then just uh field vision too. Um, a lot of people also don't know is the tennis court, like the net is shorter in the middle. They get it's 5 or 6 inches short, lower in the middle. So when you're hitting, you play cross court. Like you want to hit cross court to each other just because that's the easiest shot. It's lower. Um, but with that, and you know that's going to happen, after you hit a shot, you recover to get neutral to be able to go either way. But you don't recover to the middle of the court. You recover up like caddy corner based on the cross court that you're playing. So if you're hitting forehand to forehand, you'd recover slightly to the right side middle just because that's the easiest shot that they're going to hit. So you don't have to move as far. And because it's higher on the down the line shot, the ball is usually going to go up and down. So you'd have time to get over there for it. So there's a lot of tennis that correlates to ultimate that people don't realize.
That's interesting. I didn't know that part about the net being shorter in the middle, but I guess, yeah, that makes sense. Um, yeah, what I've heard in the past, and I've always agreed with this, is I feel like tennis is one of the best sports for development, like youth development, just because, like, if you think about tennis, there's nothing that's like too repetitive. Maybe the swinging, but like you hit forehand, you hit backhand, so like you rotate both ways, you cut and change directions, right, left, forward, backwards. You hit overhead too, so it's not like baseball where you're only swinging one way or golf where you're only swinging one way. Like you have a pretty good variety of all different movements, which I think carries over really well. And to your point too, like, yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize like how tiring change of direction is. Like when we think about conditioning, it's like usually the thing that goes into 99% of people's heads is just running, and, like, that's the thing that makes you very tired, sure, but, like, if you're actually like, if you're having to guard, like, a handler dom and you're just changing directions, like, 100 times in 10 seconds, like, that is so much more tiring than just going out and, like, running or something, and so, yeah, I could see how tennis can really help out with that.
I could never get me out of that deep up a spot.
It's tough, and it's hard to, like, replicate that too in a conditioning workout, I'm sure, like, outside of just playing mini or playing tennis or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I will say the one thing is like my hips, like my left hip is a little tight just because like the pivoting, like I hit an open stance forehand, which is almost identical to throwing a standstill flick. So always like loading off that left side, stepping out, rotating. And then for the backhand, I hit close stance. So loading the left side, stepping out and driving through. So like that side is actually a little tight, but it is. But again, my body's used to it. Uh, I was in the comments of your video with Manny the other day, talking about that load.
Right. Yeah, because for the listeners that don't know, we did so Manny Eckert from Seattle Sockeye and I did a YouTube live Q&A the other day, and James was in the chat. We were talking about like upper body for ultimate and how there's really, or at least my stance is that there's not much like upper body demand for ultimate. Like the disc weighs 175 grams, so it's not like strength is the limiting factor. But you know, if you're pulling hard, if you're producing a lot of force in the throw, then you'll eventually get sore. Yeah, like I think your tennis background definitely makes it so that you've prepared, like your body is very prepared for pretty much anything ultimate can do. Because tennis is probably a lot more demanding on the upper body.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually noticed it was just with my power in general and like warming with throwing with people is I can throw pretty far with not much effort just because one, I'm tall. Okay. So my leverage system is very easy. Just like I can just kind of step out and just throw it, like just gonna go if you have good technique. So like I can throw a lot of pulls before I start to get my shoulder gets tight or starts to hurt. I will say forehands though, like if I'm doing a lot of forehand hugs, I'll start to feel like the tennis elbow, or like inner elbow a little bit, just because like that's a little bit more strain. Like there's less, I guess there's less like full body motion in it compared. Like there's way more strain on the elbow in that movement compared to the backhand side.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like with the backhand, you can definitely get your lower body and your core a lot more into it too. Just like, I mean, with like a disc golf throw. Yeah, kind of talking on that. So I know you were a big puller. Like when at the youth camp, I saw you like teaching the kids how to pull. So you're a big puller, big thrower, but big like deep threat as well. And I think like usually players are one or the other, but like you're pretty well rounded in both, like being a thrower and a deep threat. Like what? Yeah, how do you feel like, or where do you feel like that kind of comes from?
I went to a small D3 school. Well, we played D3. We were technically D2 for our athletics, but we played D3 for ultimate. Philadelphia University. Um, so I mean, we would go to tournaments. A great number for us was having 10 players. We went to a handful of tournaments with like 7 or 8. So, and just when you're playing and not everyone's really good, I probably handled like 80% of my college career. So I developed those throws besides just being able to pull. So that's really where that started. And I didn't want to be put into a box with only a deep cutter as well. So definitely worked on the throws as much as I could.
Yeah, so you're kind of given the keys and the green light at all times. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. We also didn't have a coach, so it was kind of
Do you ever feel like there was like a big kind of transition or like an underdog mentality then for maybe coming from like a smaller G3 program to then jumping to like pros or I mean, Philly has some pretty high level club teams as well. So like trying out for those. Did you ever feel like there was this kind of like big stepping stone there?
not really. Just because. So I don't know if you know who Alicia Dixon is. She played for Philadelphia Amp for years. She played Molly Brown. She now plays on Mile High Trash and Alpenglow. She also went to Philly U. Uh, and there's a few others that have been like top level players. A guy named Matt Michelson, probably one of the best pullers. Maybe I mean he's the one who taught me how to pull. Um, he's even better puller than I am. I might have passed him finally, but no. So they were just kind of like took me under their wing. It was like Alicia had me try out for Amp like after my freshman year, just to like get my name out in Philly because I knew I was going to stay in Philly after school because I didn't want to go back to Virginia. So they kind of like grew me. Michelson was also a tall, deep cutter who had big pulls. So he kind of took me under his wing. It was like, you're not going to be like me. You can do great things. So they kind of molded me so I could take that leap. And yeah, I just decided to try out for pro that first year I graduated in.
What were some of like the biggest things that you learned like kind of right away or like the big culture shocks, I guess?
Um, I mean, the biggest, obviously, the field size. Um, for me, it was like because I hadn't played high level, like I hadn't played elite level ultimate. I played, um, I played for a couple teams in Virginia. My first couple years I graduated, or first couple years during college, and then I started playing with a regionals level team, citywide special for. Actually, I played for there 3 years, I think. Um, but I never played like. I mean, we'd play like truck stop, like because they were in region, but I never like consistently played like the best player. So for me, I kind of got that with pro. So it was just kind of and my mentality because I came from like basketball, soccer, and all those other sports. So I was always like, all right, cool. You got to prove to me that you are the best in the world when I guard you. Like I know I'm good in the air and I know I'm fast. So like I just had that mentality. So even when I went up against Ben Yacht in 2018 when he was about to be MVP, like that's just the mentality I had. Teammates were like, "Oh, you got to do this. You got to do it." Like, no, you got to prove it to me first in this matchup, and then I'll adjust my play a little bit.
I love it. How did that go? So how was that first matchup with Benya?
I mean, I got a couple. I mean, I got a couple end of quarters. I mean, that was really my big thing. I was like second D line player. The big thing was like end of quarter offense, end of quarter defense. I probably scored like 6 of like my 10 goals that season or whatever I had from end of quarters.
To your point about basketball and soccer and stuff, I think Ultimate's unique because well, I think people complain that it's a small sport and it's a growing sport, which is good. But it also like one of the unique advantages of that is you can have situations like that where new players can go up against the potential MVP like pretty quickly, you know. I've seen a lot of clips recently of like track and field athletes almost complaining about that. Like I saw a clip of Noah Lyles talking about how anybody that's fast can just go like compete in the Diamond League or whatever. I don't know what track rankings actually are. And he was comparing it to like, well, you can't just be good at basketball and go play in the NBA. It's like, yes, you can, but that's besides the point. But yeah, Frisbee is kind of cool where it's like if you're good, like almost right away you can go compete against the top talent, which is just nice. Was there like a big shift for you then? So you said like just competing against like, better players was like the big kind of exposure that you got. Was there what was like the biggest shift from year one to now in your game?
I mean, a lot. I mean, I'm still. I mean, because what I played D line for 3.5 seasons, 2.5 seasons, I think, mainly, and then that last half season, that third year, stuff wasn't going great, and they kind of moved me in and out of the O line the last half of that season, and then 22 is when we brought in our new coach and was like, all right, you're playing offense. So the biggest shift would be just like my throwing ability, my consistency in that throwing ability, and then just still being the dominant deep cutter.
Were there certain things that you like prioritized or like focused on to improve your throwing? Like any drills or stuff like that?
No, I just threw a lot. I coached a lot. Honestly, I think that's what it is. Like, I don't really throw outside of practice. Like, I don't go to a field and throw that often. But I had started coaching University of Penn, their men's team, the year I graduated. So fall 2018, I immediately got into coaching college. I started with their B team for a year, and then I went to the A team. So what the 1920 season when COVID happened, I was an assistant coach, and then when we came back, I forget when we came back. I don't know if it was spring 21 maybe. I ended up being head coach and was head coach for a year. Um, but at practices, I would throw. So like any of the drills, like one-on-one cutting, I'm throwing the in cut or I'm throwing the deep ball. Uh, any kind of drill like that, like I'm throwing. So 3 practices a week for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm throwing. I also ran. I was running all of the Philadelphia Phoenix's youth camps. So last year we ran. I think it was 26 week-long camps in 20 weeks, or in 22 weeks. I ran 20 of those, and the ones I didn't were because I was running the UFA camp in Davenport with you. I also did the one in Seattle in partnership with the WL as well. So throwing to a throwing to an 8-year-old on a 30-yard deep shot is not easy. You cannot just rip it out of the league. So like that definitely helped develop the touch of just like throwing, put a lot of spin, just let it sit out there in front of them and just kind of not try to kill little kids out there.
Coaching, you got like a ridiculous amount of reps, but not just reps where you're just kind of mindlessly throwing, but and they're not necessarily live reps, but like reps where there's actually a cutter and there's a specific target and you have to be conscious of what you're doing.
Yeah. Like cutter defender, like 1-on-1 going deep, so like throwing it out to space. Sometimes I would be like, all right, some of the college kids aren't going to throw this good. So I just think like I need to maybe not just put these out in front every time because we're working on things. But yeah, like it would always be intentional reps for me in my head with them making cuts and they're learning too. So
Right. That's awesome. And I think, I mean, one of the best ways to learn is to teach too, right? Or your coach. Do you feel like being in that coaching role, like helped improve your own game?
yeah, definitely. Um, I mean, I've always loved coaching and just seeing the field from the sideline sometimes just helps you just see the field in general and pick up on things.
I imagine having to like articulate things and like probably break them down to an easier to understand level also helps you get like a better understanding of everything too.
It does, and I struggle with that sometimes. It was great because I was talking to Antoine Davis at the beach USA beach tryout about this. Because like was only able to make 4 practices for Dragon last year as a travel player, which it was double practice weekends. It was like I maybe would have made 8 in general, but I had some other stuff. But for me, if you do like the ulti plays or something where you draw it on a board and you have it go through, like I can see it, pick it up almost instantly, and we'll be able to rep it, run it, tell people where to go. But like I definitely last year on Dragon, like my first time meeting everyone was like Friday night in Corvallis before PEC West. Yeah, I mean I knew a couple of them because I played them before, and some had been from Philly. But yeah, that was my first time meeting most of my teammates, and then playing the next day at an elite level tournament. But like I was able to like ask questions to coaches like, shouldn't this have happened in this situation if this is what we're running? And it definitely surprises people.
So, and you feel like that's because like you've had to teach kids and college students like or had to like write that out on a board and plays and stuff like that a lot. Like your understanding of the X's and O's just has improved.
Yeah, it has. I mean, I've just also just been the visual learner for everything. Um, so like that's where it's like hard for me sometimes to like explain it to people because I'm like, all right, this is kind of straightforward. Like, why don't you get this? Well, like just because the way my brain works, like I see it, I can do it. But like everyone's not like that. Some people need to actually rep it and struggle through. It's like trying to find that balance of like, all right, how much is this is how people learn and people just aren't understanding. So I need to explain it differently.
So from your experience then having coached so many different players, like are there like really big kind of common mistakes that you see people make when they're trying to improve, let's say they're throwing in particular?
You can say like mistakes. Like usually if people are improving, usually like there's something in their form that's not great. So it's like trying to get them to adjust it. And I've found, which we did at the UFA camp, is recording them and recording myself. Like, yeah, I know my mechanics aren't ideal, perfect or whatever, but it's like I can throw a standstill like 70, 80-yard flick, standstill backhand, like not like close to 90. So it's like, all right, I'm doing something right. So we actually did at the camp where me and just Joe Cubit, we filmed everyone throwing hucks into a net and we recorded them throwing like 2 or 3 forehands. Then we had me and Joe throw one because he's all of what, maybe 5 foot? With me at 6'5", so like you could see the difference in our mechanics with how compact he is and how long I am. And I found that definitely helps people because like, all right, oh, I'm kind of doing this. Like people don't always just get it right away when they hear it. I haven't really done like one-on-ones yet with people. It's mainly just been in like teams. So I haven't really got that like where they're struggling, but usually it's just form errors is their issue, not they're practicing wrong.
Yeah. I like that. And I like, one thing in, like, the exercise coaching world that I'm more in that I've heard and I think about a lot is how, like, very simply or, like, to generalize, there's, like, visual learners, kinesthetic learners, and auditory learners, right? So people that learn visually, people that learn kinesthetically are, like, by doing or feeling, and then people that learn from hearing or audio. And I feel like probably the least common is people with, like, auditory learners, yet, like, 99% of cueing is audio, right? So it's like most of the way that we naturally or, like, traditionally teach is through the, like, way that people learn the least. And so, yeah, it's, like, simple as it is, sometimes it's the most effective of, like, yeah, record somebody, like, I do this all the time for exercises, like, record them, let them see it, and it's like, "Oh, that's what I look like," and then boom, they immediately are able to fix it. Yeah, you taught the kids how to pull. Like, is there kind of a big distinction that you make between pulling and throwing? Like, obviously, pulling is, like, a lot farther than just, the standard throw that you would do, but, yeah, are there, like, certain things that go into it that you think about that are different between the 2?
Depends. So if like we're talking like high schoolers, like teaching them, the big thing I teach people, especially because a lot of people struggle with the footwork, like that crossover step, the X step, is I'm like, all right, just throw a standstill backhand as far as you can. Like the only thing the run up is doing is giving you a little bit more momentum to get that little extra distance. So like if you're already throwing, say 60 yards, like the run up is probably going to get you to like 70, 80, depending on your form, if you already have good form. So for like them, it's like, all right, just the run up's going to give you a little bit more power, and then just like how having to brace. For like me, it's I focus on like where my body's positioned and whatnot, because for me, like my power is like too much of an edge would just drastically change the flight of the disc that I want. It could be a difference between like 8 seconds of hang time to like 5. Because like that's where I'm more focused on with my own pulling. Like this, most of my bad pulls now are gonna be almost at the goal line. If it's really windy, they'll be shorter, but like if there's almost no wind, like it's gonna be to the goal line. So distance isn't the issue.
Can you break down that crossover step or, like, the X step for people that might not know?
Yeah. So basically, you're running up, or we'll just go righty backhand, and you turn your as you're turning your body to the left to take the disc back, and it can be wherever you want. Basically, you want to take what is that? Usually plant my right foot and then take the left foot behind and kind of hop into it a little bit, get a little hop into it and get a little distance. And then as you plant off that left again, really exploding into that right foot and just driving so it looks like an X. Um, Baseball players do it, especially when they like field a ground ball. You'll see you take a step behind. That's the same thing. Um, Not necessary. Some of the best pullers don't. They just kind of do the crow hop where they just kind of shuffle into it. I think that's harder and weirder, but and it also helps you just turn your body further. So like if I'm here and I turn, like and I'm side sliding, I'm like, this is my take back. But if I do that X step and I go behind, like, I'm reaching so much further behind already. So it basically just allows you to almost put your back to where you're throwing. And that's just more power.
That makes sense. So that way you're almost, like, orienting yourself more where, like, you're moving the end position of where your hips would be, so that way you're set up even more, like, in your wind up pretty much, so you can wind all the way through.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there and do you recommend I would assume, like, if people are trying to learn that, like, they just start slow and kinda walk through it and then slowly add more speed into it?
Yeah, definitely. Especially, and you can tell the players that have played other sports or not because they have. They can usually get it quick, and there's some that just can't pick it up. Um, so yeah, just definitely just keep going at it slowly, and then if it's not working out, just do what works for you.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's usually baseball background. People are pretty good at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's natural because you do it all the time.
sure. Yeah, I meant baseball, softball, probably either of those. Mentioned in the intro, you were 2022 most improved player. What was like? What do you attribute that growth to?
I switched from defense to offense.
That was the year of the surge.
Yeah, that was the year. Um, I would say I improved more coming out of COVID. So that 2021 season, um, like we've because Phoenix started running. That's we started running our week long summer camp in the August of 2020 because our owner was a dermatologist, so like she was big on like so she knew everything about it. And she was like, oh, like there's no risk of being outside. Like you can't get it touching a disc. Like it's not going to transfer. So we had a crew of probably like 8 to 10 that were playing mini twice a week. So I got my throws and stuff got even better, my footwork, my defense. But yeah, the reason I got most improved that year was definitely because I switched from defense to offense. I mean, I've been putting up like 10 blocks. Like I was trying to go for like the triple doubles, like 10 blocks, 10 goals, 10 assists a season. Like I was close. And then that next year, I think I went like 20, like 30 and 30 something, like goals and assists, and like 13 blocks.
Wow. Some your offensive stats almost tripled then.
Yeah, I mean, because I went from playing every other D point to every O point. That was also the year we made playoffs for the first time in
Oh, nice.
10 years. So
That helps a lot too, I imagine.
yeah,
I want to get into a little bit more about like your own specific training. You mentioned you were playing tennis to then going to ultimate. Like you weren't training as much for tennis, but then when you started focusing on ultimate, you started training for ultimate a lot more. What were things then that like you were focusing on, and like even now, like what are some big things that you focus on in your training?
um, I'm still doing basically the same program I started back in 2018. Um, but really, it's just like rotational stuff. Just the big thing is lifting heavy and sprinting. Um, just trying to stay explosive while getting stronger, which a lot of people don't do. They tend to do like phases where it's like, all right, off season, I'm a bulk, but they're not really running or doing anything. So then when the new year comes around, they're like, all right, it's time to start ramping back up for tryouts and stuff. They like start running again, but their body's different. So it's definitely going to take time to adjust. But if while you're lifting heavy, you're also doing your plyos, doing box jumps, sprints, change of direction stuff, you got to build the strength. Your body's going to know how to move still, and you're not going to lose speed or any of that athletic ability that you already had, and it's just going to get better.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm gonna have to clip that. I think people, yeah, definitely. That's like one of the biggest mistakes I see is people go through this phase of like wanting to try to bulk up, but yeah, they don't do any of the athletic stuff. So they basically turn themselves into a refrigerator and then try to be as athletic as they were before. And then we'll blame it on the bulk or blame it on lifting. It's like, no, you sat on the couch for 4 months, only did exercises where you were stationary and then try to sprint again. Like, of course, you're not going to feel good when you're sprinting. So what are some of the things that you like when we were at the UFA camp, I saw you trap bar deadlifting. You're strong. So like what were some of or what are some of the things that like you like to add in to kind of stay athletic and explosive?
Yeah, I mean, deadlifts are one of my favorites, especially trap bar. Especially with the tennis background, I do have really strong legs. I think my 1 rep max or my 2 rep max right now is still like 420 from like last year or something. Um, I think I was repping, I think I rep like 275 last week for like 10 reps. Was was what I was doing, and I was like struggling because like my grip was like didn't have chocolate in like a public gym. So I'm like, all right, do I need to get gloves? Do I need to do this? But like, yeah, so deadlifts, but following those deadlifts up immediately with like 4 box jumps. Like, and they're not even like high, like 30-inch box for me. Like that's easy. That's not even like I don't even really need to load in fully and like pay attention to what I'm doing. It's like that's like all right, I'm just there. Like I can just quickly go down, go up. Um, Back squats, and I mean, really, just if you want to just do basics, you could do like 6 main lifts, like back squats, deadlifts, overhead press, chin ups, weighted if you can. Um, Bench press, like starting there, hip thrust, like simple stuff, nothing crazy, but yeah, definitely you still have to add in all those plyos. You can do some, depending on your gym, anything rotation based, med ball slams, cable, cable work, just pretty simple stuff. Nothing
Yeah,
crazy.
no, for sure. Like it's simple but effective. I think admittedly I play the game a little bit of like showing the fancier stuff on Instagram because yeah, if I just show like do back squats for alternate, nobody's watching that, and so I have to show some of the fancier stuff. But yeah, most of what I do and what I program is that simple stuff because it's effective, right? Like if it wasn't effective, then it wouldn't be like the foundation for so many programs and so many different sports. Like you'll see people squat no matter the sport because of how just generally applicable and effective it is. And so, yeah, I like that. Just keep things simple.
Yeah. Split squats also was doing those earlier today. Um, but then also following those up with box jumps. But I'll do those stagger stands. Like I'm doing a split squat, so might as well do that because that'll also give you that balance that you need. Where I was watching your videos earlier today, your Elliot Bonet video on cutting techniques. Like that's gonna help you load into your cuts and stuff better, be more explosive out of them too. By doing split squats and then immediately doing plyos like box jumps or even just like skater hops.
Cutting, running, jumping, like it all happens one leg at a time. Even if you're doing a two leg jump, you're usually having one foot come forward and then the other foot come
Yeah,
right behind it. So, yeah, if everything happens one leg at a time, is you like it's probably smart to train one leg at a time with a split squat or something like that. I think we're kind of coming up on time here soon. I want to get to some like kind of rapid fire type questions, and then we'll start to wrap it up here. If that sounds good.
sounds good.
Cool. All right, so we'll kind of go through some rapid fire stuff I got here. Who's the most underrated player in the UFA right now?
Oh, good lord. Um, I'm gonna be biased. I'm gonna still say Greg Martin.
Philadelphia teammate.
Yep.
Nice, nice. What about in the women's division, either league?
Oh, that's hard. I know so many people. I'm gonna be biased again. Use the Dragon teammate, Chelsea Sumper, just moved back to Philly. Or Surge.
Nice, nice. No, they're in the middle of their season now. Who's the toughest matchup you've had to guard?
I've had to guard. I don't think I've guarded Babbitt. Um, it's weird because I've been playing mostly offense these last few years, so it's been the opposite for me with them people guarding me. So to take this back a few years. Oh, actually, last year, Terrence Mitchell,
Oh, yeah, he's quick.
Flyers, yeah.
Who do you dislike guarding you the most?
Antoine Davis. He's one of the few people that backs me. I mean, most people back me, but he's one of the few people that has the quickness to recover on unders, and then which is a big help for him. And then I can beat him deep if I get steps. Like I think I'm one of the few players he can't really close on over a long distance if I get separation. But yeah, no, definitely Antoine. He makes me work.
Right, if you weren't playing Ultimate, what would you be doing competitively?
Ooh. Actually, no. At this point, pickleball. Unfortunately,
Eh, It's the way to go now.
I was a tennis player. Pickleball's easy.
That's fair. That's fair. It's like it's just easy. Yeah, it's easier tennis, pretty much, right? Especially if you're sick of you played tennis growing up.
The ball doesn't bounce as high, and it's a smaller court. Like we played it for a couple weeks in high school in gym class. So like I played with the one coach who coached tennis. Like he played all the sports. He's a good ping pong. It was like It took me like 5 minutes to realize the ball didn't bounce as high, and then I was fine. It was dominating.
Do you think you'll do that when you retire from Ultimate?
No, it's easy to say that, but no. I would rather just play tennis, play golf, coach Ultimate.
That's fair. But we lost that NFL guy to pickleball, so there's too many more. Do you have any like weird interactions or like funny moments at games? Anything like that?
Um, Toronto last year, they have a bit of beer garden and it wrapped around behind one of the end zones. So there are fans there and they're heckling the whole time. And there was an end of quarter. We pulled. There was only probably like 10 seconds left, not a little bit less. So like I didn't even leave the end zone. And so one of the guys said something. I don't know what it was. It made me laugh. I looked over at him, and then I ended up catching the block in the end zone. And he said something about I need to pay attention like more to the field or something. And I just like commented back. I was like, I can do both. Like I can get the D here. I could talk to you. Like I'm good.
That's awesome. And what is that like playing in Toronto, like in a different country, but in the same league? Like, does it feel any different when you're out there?
Not out there. It's like going up is what is like crossing the border and all that stuff. Because like they got to take the time. It's like we're full charter bus. You got to get off the bus. You got to search the bus. We got to wait. They clear. We get back on. But like once we're there, and obviously whatever phone plan you have, that can matter. The connection. But once you're there, really no. Not in Toronto. Montreal is a little bit harder just because French. So like a lot of signs are in French and whatnot, and you have that, but not really that much different.
I getcha. Just some small logistical things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Last two questions here. So, rant and rave. Like, what's one thing that you would like rave about in the Frisbee community or Frisbee scene right now? This can be like any part of Frisbee, like training for Frisbee, the growth of Frisbee, Frisbee media. So one thing you would rave about, and then one thing you would rant about.
Ooh. I think Frisbee media, especially like the coverage, especially for pro leagues, is getting better. Even club like, and then just the camera angle, like nationals last year, it was like semifinals and finals. I think they had like 12 cameras, like that were all fed in to Ulti World, which was insane. And I think just the angle of like the main feed is getting better. Like we want to see the field. We want to see how plays develop. We don't want to just see the handler that has the disc. You don't know what's happening. It's crazy. Um, Rant about the obvious one is like how ultimate players just still try to gatekeep ultimate to themselves. Like they talk about growth, but it's like the things that they say and do, just like you don't really want to expand this outside of the sport. Like you want to grow it within title. Like if you want to grow outside of ultimate, you need to get people who come from other backgrounds or to expand it. We've done this before.
It's interesting. Do you have like a specific example of that?
Unfortunately, like the women's pro leagues, I think they need to combine. Um, I think it's just better. Maybe do East versus West, whatever, and similar to UFA. Because the issue is like you can't be donation based if you're trying to grow. Like at a certain point, like it's just going to be hard. Like yeah, it's unfortunate that the women's pro leagues didn't start when the UFA did back in the day. But like now that there's leagues, it's like got to do more to get outside investors or get owners that can lose money. Like that's the big thing is like you're gonna have to lose money for a few years to get the sport to grow. I don't think people necessarily understand that. I mean, I'm glad that there's two women's pro leagues. I support them. I spent Saturday night watching. I had like all the screens going. I get jerseys every year. But that is one critique I have.
Last question. So this is one of my favorite questions. Like I want to know kind of what's something that keeps you up at night, like thinking about Ultimate? All right. So like what's a question that you have about Ultimate that you don't have the answer to yet? Like I want to know kind of what the best minds in the sport are really pondering about Ultimate.
I would love. I've seen this, especially because I was also a mechanical engineering major in college. So, and I've built a robot a few times. I'd want to know if there's an ideal, like, form or technique to get the most out of a disc flight, like tracking. Like people say they don't want to see like the revolutions per minute on a throw, but like I would love to see that. Like how much does that affect a throw? And that would be cool if we were able to. I'm sure the technology is definitely out there to be able to put that in the plastic and be able to track that in real time. Like that would be fun to know, especially to see across throwers. Because like, all right, does that actually matter? Speed, like what matters more?
That's interesting. Yeah. I'd be really interested in seeing that, like if a broadcast during a game could get that like live data. So being able to see like a big huck goes up with the RPMs if it was, or like if it's a windier game, does that change? Stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that the UFA is doing more stuff like that this year. I've heard that they're going to allow players to wear wearables like watches and stuff. And I know for the past few years, people have been wearing the like those like stat sports bras and whatnot to like track their acceleration, all that stuff, all those numbers on speed, change of direction, whether it's the player, the disc. I want to know that stuff.
I did my graduate master's like final project was on that where we had the stat sport. I don't know if I told you this, but I had like a handful of players wear stat sports trackers during games and then tracked it all last season. So we've got
How was that? You
legit.
get like you get a bunch of different like handlers, cutters, and like to see the difference in movement.
I kept it pretty similar because my sample size was only 4, so I didn't want like one handler, one cutter. Like yeah, I try to keep it all pretty similar, but the logistics of it was the hardest part, getting guys to wear it and get the data back and all that stuff. So the process could definitely be improved, but there there was some decent data. I'll send it to you after this. I might leave it down below too if anybody's listened this far, it's interested in looking at it.
Yeah, that's definitely fun. And because I always know like because club they don't care about all that stuff. So like I track tournaments on my watch, and I'll be like 14, 15 miles after 3 games of a club tournament. The A, I'll be at 21 if it's 4 games, which is insane.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It was funny. Not actual like numbers wise, like last year on Phoenix to start the season because we're working on like our small ball stuff. Oh, like we had to run every time we threw a huck, and like I was like getting so exhausted. I was like, this is insane. And like I remember Paulo was just like come on, like you gotta throw you like you're gonna throw it, like you gotta do the like run. And then he got switched over to O like a little bit before the season. And like the first day, like the second time we had the run, he's like, this sucks. I was like, yeah, it does. It's like now that you're on this side of it. Like especially being like I'm a deep cutter. Like it's very different than a handler who's like standing there moving like a couple yards at a time. Throws a huck. And then we have to run. Is like I've made probably 150 yards worth of cuts in this point, and then now have to go sideline to sideline.
Yeah, they're having you double up pretty much the amount of running.
Yeah. Like I'd love to see a like handler versus like I'd love to see Pavel versus me in a game.
That would be a great comparison. Yeah. And I'd be interested too in the amount of change directions then, like how much distance you cover and how many like sprints you have versus how many start and stops he has, right? And if there's a big difference there, that would be cool to see. Cool. This has been fun, James. Yeah. Thanks. Hopefully people got some good stuff learn or good stuff out of this. I definitely did. I learned some stuff. So appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.